Hello, my name is Jeanna Caldwell from the Missouri Department of Higher Education and Workforce Development. Our equity project began a little over a year ago with a vision for addressing inequities and educational disparities for Missouri citizens. The department's desire is to build a careful process for addressing inequities and show our commitment toward equitable outcomes for all Missourians aligned with our vision to empower every Missourian with the skills and education needed for success. The Building Bridges series is an informative look at how Missouri's colleges, universities, and community organizations are addressing equity. We hope you learn from these shared experiences, and thank you again for joining us.
Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to the July edition of the Missouri Higher Education Bridge to Success webinar. My name is Jeanna Caldwell, Senior Research and Data Analyst at the Missouri Department of Higher Education and Workforce Development in the Office of Postsecondary Policy. Today's webinar is going to be on the learner's journey, accessible post-secondary training through work-based learning. The presenter is going to be Ms. Gina Caldwell. We're going to do a couple of preliminary things, get out the way. All attendees have been muted upon entry, so please do not unmute yourself. This presentation will be presented live, and panelists will be available for questions at the end. I'll also add the presentation as well. Gina has given me the presentation to put in the chat, so I'll put that in the chat towards the end of the presentation as well. Please use the chat feature to ask questions, and feel free to share your experiences regarding with re-engaging adult learners. And this webinar is being recorded and will be posted to our website probably sometime this week. With that, I will introduce our presenter today. From the Office of Apprenticeship and Work-Based Learning at the Department of Higher Education and Workforce Development, presenting here Ms. Gina Caldwell. She is the Apprenticeship and Work-Based Learning Manager. Gina has been instrumental in leading the efforts to expand and modernize Missouri's apprenticeship and work-based learning programs since November 2016. Gina has served as the connection point between Missouri's apprenticeship stakeholders, including Missouri's Department of USDOL Office of Apprenticeship, higher education partners, secondary education partners, local workforce development boards, state agencies, and community partners. Gina has managed multiple projects, including State Apprenticeship Expansion Grant and the Missouri Registered Apprenticeship Program, the Apprenticeship State Expansion, and Missouri Apprenticeship Ready. Apprenticeship Missouri and the Office of Workforce Development is committed to making post-secondary education accessible through inclusive work-based learning opportunities. My experience with Gina, she's awesome to speak to, incredibly knowledgeable, incredibly passionate about this, about her work. Without further ado, Ms. Gina Caldwell, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Jeron. Really is my pleasure to be here, to be able to share today a lot of the things that are on my heart as far as what we can do as influencers on the education journey of citizens of Missouri. I work chiefly with Apprenticeship Missouri, which is charged with the expansion of apprenticeship, but we also facilitate the state's WIOA programs. Those are programs that are designed to increase the accessibility of earn and learn activities through our workforce system. And so I do work with the Office of Workforce Development, which is a part of the Department of Higher Education and Workforce Development. And apprenticeships are featured as a piece of the Five to Thrive, which includes apprenticeships, certificates, bachelor's degrees, associate's degrees, and then our post-secondary advanced credentials. We have the option to be able to be influential no matter where we are. And I hope that the things that I share with you today, that you're able to think of your position and your locus of control and your influence and how you play a role in a learner's journey and their accessibility to success. I challenge everyone to acknowledge that every learner is important and start to be thinking about the retention of each learner. It actually is dependent on our ability to adapt to their needs. And I do want to put this out there as a call to action, is that we must have collaboration between colleges and employers to ensure that the learner's journey leads to a life of meaning and purpose. Okay, so the learner's journey, we will dive right in. I will be talking about a lot of things as it compares to work-based learning, because that's what this is born out of. But you can really consider any learner to go along this journey. And I hope that you can make some connections through your own world, even if the types of training programs that you're familiar with aren't engaging in an earn and learn component. When citizens experience a loss, they may have immediate needs of which that they are actually aware of. You lose a job, you have an immediate need to wonder where your next paycheck is going to come from. How are you going to be able to pay your bills? How are you going to afford your housing? You may not be aware of options that could be right there available to you, but have not been made available because they've never met your pathway before. Awareness and access is limited, dependent on what the citizen has been exposed to, and the will of the service providers that actually offer these programs. So if you are unwilling to meet a citizen to what they need, it's very hard to transform a citizen into a learner. We want to make sure that we are offering programs and we are collaborating together so we can be flexible and responsive to the needs of the citizen. The citizen is a learner, and we teach the learner what we value and how we value them through our responsiveness to their needs, regardless of their awareness. So we have a responsibility, if we know about things that could help someone to make a choice to move into something that will help them lead a successful life. We have a responsibility to share that. But there are many things that may impact someone's ability to hear that communication. And so we should work together to figure out how we can ensure that individuals that are suffering a loss are able to be responded to in a way that works for them. So we have a responsibility to ensure that learners can access the services that they need. So these services, being adaptable and being flexible, might mean that these services that we offer them need to be delivered in person, virtually, or even be available for them to be self-directed. So how are we developing things that make it easier for an individual to be supported at the time that they are experiencing a loss? How do we help them to be called forward into action to live a life of meaning and purpose and success if we are not giving them access to the services in a way that they need access? They might not even have a voice to demand the access that they need. So we have to be proactive to ensure that individuals can know about our programs, know about the things that could help them move forward on their learner journey. A mentor is a teacher that comes alongside the learner. Mentor is something that is consistent throughout work-based learning. We'll talk about the work-based learning process in a little while, but work-based learning is dependent on mentorship. It's the common theme that you will see in every different type of work-based learning. I'm particularly passionate about mentorship because I think that this is something that is a common theme in successful programs, a common theme that you will see even in our most heroic journeys and stories that we love to engage in. A mentor is someone who is teaching an individual, is helping them to see what is possible and pushing them to succeed. For this journey that we're talking about today, a mentor may be a career counselor, a career navigator, a service provider, or training provider. I'm just putting some of those out there. You might think of a mentor in some other way that serves the citizen or the learner that I didn't list out here. But for many of my purposes and the programs that I run in earn and learn opportunities, mentors are the career counselors, the navigators, service providers, training providers. The mentor increases the learner's awareness of what is unknown. Whenever an individual is actually encountering a loss, they might choose to remain in their known world. And if I were to compare that to what we experience through Missouri job centers, this might be an example that you could relate to. A job seeker loses their job and they receive services at a Missouri job center, and they choose that their next option that's best for them is to actually go straight back into employment as quickly as possible. That is an option, and that is something that keeps them in the known world. It's what they're comfortable with. It helps them to be able to get back to that paycheck as quickly as possible so they can take care of the needs that they are aware of right now. We also have a very wonderful responsibility that I want to make sure that I am sharing is that mentors, if you are a mentor, if you know a mentor, we have this awesome responsibility of making sure that learners know all of their options in order to protect a learner's freedom of choice and to ensure that they're able to access their most meaningful life. So I get really excited about this because I think that this is a transition pivot point. It also is, what's referred to as the choice threshold. So if I am a learner, or if maybe I'm just a citizen at this point and I haven't chosen to become a learner or to make that choice to engage in training and to do something different, um, I might be influenced by a mentor that I have more options than what I initially considered. And so, as a work based learning opportunity, that person can actually stay in the known world and be earning a paycheck and engaging in learning at the same time. I also will offer this caveat that a lot of times, when somebody is choosing to go into education, no matter what the pathway is, they typically have to support themselves in some way. That is just the truth of most people's experience, is that they're going to have to work while they are engaging in the learning process. Work-based learning programs, they combine it into a nice package where they earn and learn at the same time, and the employer is a part of the learning. The what I want you to consider here is that mentorship and the choice and the freedom of choice to make that decision and go across that threshold of choosing to engage in learning is something that's common to all of our experiences, whether or not we're a career navigator, whether we are a career counselor, whether we run training programs, whether we are a training provider. We are sitting right there at the threshold of whether an individual can, will, or want to make the choice to engage in what we have to offer. Our willingness to adapt to their needs and help them meet their needs will determine whether or not that they can be successful and whether or not our choices that we offer give them the options to live a meaningful life. And so I'm obviously a proponent of work-based learning because it allows individuals to um, actually engage in that learning on the job, and then also be able to experience any type of classroom training that would be valued and relevant to what they need to learn. But I do think that there are a variety of choices that we could direct somebody to that they might not be aware of, and I know that we are all passionate about the options that we help people to have. Um, it's a great responsibility and a wonderful thing to be a part of, to help people get to a yes, I think that I can do this, and I know that I can be supported in this, and I see the pathway before me and believe in it. So really a big fan of mentors. So if you're a mentor out there, thank you for what you do. And if you play this role in helping individuals to know about their options, what you do is so highly valuable to our society, and probably is not recognized as much as it should be. So what you do to ensure that people know they have options, to illuminate them, to, a world beyond what they've known previously is so vitally important. So let's say that the learner um, hears from, an individual who is serving as a mentor, and they say, yes, I would like to try this option. I would like to go from someone who experienced a loss to someone who is going to take up the charge and proactively be responsible for my learning. There is a crossing over into an unknown world that happens at that point. So I'm choosing to go from, I was a citizen. So we consider it like I'm the citizen, and then I'm choosing to become the learner. Like I am making myself vulnerable. I am doing something that I haven't done before. And so you see my illustration that as we move from the choice threshold into the unknown world and into the learner's journey that is consisting of tests. They're catching a ball. The image of my little stick man, they're catching a ball. The ability to catch that ball is going to be varied. Like sometimes they're going to need extra coaching in order to be able to catch a ball. Sometimes they're going to, be able to run with it and do a great job right out the bat. Other times we're going to do an assessment of someone and find out that maybe we need to offer more coaching to help direct them on a successful path. Um, I'm a big fan of Viktor Frankl, so that's why I am sharing this with you today. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. If you know Viktor Frankl, if you don't know him, please read up about him. But for someone to be talking about choosing one's attitude in light of suffering, and to have been through concentration camps and the anguish of losing so much, but then also be open to the idea that we play a role in this world in helping others to find meaning is amazing. And I do not doubt that every person on this call plays that role in some way. And so please understand whenever, I say things on this presentation, I am not just doing so to illuminate something about work-based learning. I am not just doing this in order to talk about a training program and, talk about a learner's journey. I'm doing it as even a call to action to know that we have a great responsibility and a privilege to be able to serve through the work that we do. So let's talk about the learner. One's ability to choose is going to be influenced by the choices presented to them and the accessibility of options. We cannot control a lot of times the accessibility of options for individuals if we do not know about them ourselves. And so we have to be confident and competent in what we are actually presenting to the learners that are in our lives. Whether these are learners that we encounter in our workplace because of the work we do, or the learners that sit around our kitchen tables or we encounter in our communities, we have a great responsibility to be knowledgeable and be proactive in ensuring that individuals know what their options are. Really, our ability to have freedom of will and to have some sense of control over what our destiny is what leads to that life of meaning. So individuals who are learning are going to, of course, be encountering tests as we support them and try to get them into the training programs that we have. These tests that they encounter actually can be designed to screen in or screen out individuals for particular career paths. And so, when I provide that example of somebody catching a ball, can they catch it already? That maybe like this aspect of the training would be most relevant. Do they need some additional supports and coaching in order to be able to catch? Then we are responsible for ensuring that they can access those. So we are responsible for ensuring that the meaningful path is accessible. So even if they are screened out from the path that is accepted, from the traditional path, we have to help them find another way. We have to help every individual find success. We need every individual to be able to access success and contribute to a meaningful life here in Missouri. So think about that. Just a simple illustration. If somebody takes a test and they don't pass right away, what are we doing to support them to ensure that they can still access the path to success? So every learner needs to be able to access the tools necessary to ensure that they can gain new skills. So they've caught the ball, they've made it into the program, they've passed the test. Now they're having to actually encounter maybe some classroom work. Maybe they are experienced with classroom training. Maybe this is a new world for them. If the learners are familiar with classroom training, then great. But that doesn't mean that they wouldn't encounter barriers. If it is new territory for them, we have to set them up with transparent expectations. Just as we should be transparent in what it takes to enter into a program and pass tests, we do have to be transparent in what it takes to be successful. And unfortunately, barriers can arise at any time throughout a learner's journey. Barriers oftentimes don't come in the very beginning because we're really great at offering wonderful supports in the beginning of a journey. And then we might taper off the involvement, or like maybe the program's designed to sink or swim. Does anybody have a program like that? Barriers can come along at unexpected times, but if you're paying attention to the data, if you are being aware of success and outcomes for participants, you might be able to predict additional supports that need to be offered. I'll provide you an example right now. In like an electrical apprenticeship program, the first year is not the toughest year. It's the second year. It's the second year that an apprentice is in an electrical apprenticeship that they are encountering mathematics that is challenging to them in many ways that they maybe had not anticipated. And so for that reason, many programs do have to be super transparent in the beginning, like, okay, the second year is going to be tough. But then they are also developing pre-apprenticeship programs that offer support on the front end, so they are able to assess whether or not this is appropriate or something that they would be able to do. And so if we notice the trends that there are common barriers within our programs, it's our responsibility to offer solutions for individuals. The barriers are not just limited to what's related to our programs. Barriers are not just related to the rigor of our curriculum. Barriers also come along that are not able to be controlled or influenced by us whatsoever. You can lose a learner to barriers without appropriate intervention and wraparound solutions. I will say that barriers to training and learning and even getting to work exist. And these are common barriers that face many of those that are faced by the strongest inequities in our systems. We do not want to lose learners. Retention is key. No matter who we work for or what we do, we must retain our workers. We must retain our students. It is vitally important in order for them to be successful that we collaborate and are aware and are responsive to their needs. I have a quote here from Michelle Weiss from Long Life Learning. Most working learners are asked to stack training on top of all of the other demands in their lives, from working full-time jobs or multiple part-time ones to caring for families and the elderly. As we consider building blocks for the future, perhaps the most critical element to get right will be deliberate focus on 360-degree supportive services. And supportive services in the workforce world is something that we're very familiar with. It's something that it actually is a component of the regulations that run our workforce world. It allows us to be able to be responsive and adaptive to needs, but it's not perfect because we can't always know what someone is encountering. And it's really only as strong as our ability to partner with the services that are accessible to the learners and accessible to our citizens in the workforce. Here are some examples to some assistance through supportive services that might help individuals to overcome barriers. These are supportive services that are available through the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. And these services are received through our local job centers. So Missouri Job Centers, if you're not familiar with Missouri Job Center services, you can check that out on our website, jobs.mo.gov. But some of these things that you see on this list are things that someone might not be anticipating encountering whenever they're choosing to go into a training opportunity. But these are things that we have a deep responsibility of knowing about if we are a mentor, if we are a guide in the learner's journey, or if we are the type of person who sets up and develops programs. We need to consider that any one of our candidates for our programs, of our workers, of our students could encounter these barriers. And some people encounter barriers at a higher rate than others. And so we must design programs that are accessible to meet the need of those who would have the most barriers. So the needs that could be accounted for and assisted with through WIOA supports include linkages to community services, assistance with transportation, assistance with childcare and dependent care. How much have we heard about that in the past year? Assistance with housing, needs-related payments, assistance with educational testing, reasonable accommodations for individuals with disabilities, legal aid services, referrals to healthcare, assistance with uniforms or appropriate work attire, work-related tools, eyeglasses, eye gear, other safety equipment. You are not going to be a great earn and learn mechanic if you don't have your own tools. Nobody wants to share the same wrench around a shop of people. You have to have your own. You have to come with your own tools. Assistance with books, fees, school supplies, all of these things can be very prohibitive from allowing us to engage in the post-secondary experience. I know that there's financial aid out there and all kinds of programs that are awesome. Our department runs them. I'm so proud of them. But if I don't know about them as a learner, if somebody's not telling me about them and actively engaging in me as an individual who has this need, or even telling me about them even though they don't know I have this need, then I might not be able to access them. And payments for fees for employment and related applications, tests, certifications. So these are supportive services that I can directly, if there is a need, if the individual would be eligible to receive these type of services, like I know where I could link them up to a Missouri Job Center. But how am I doing that if my training program is not already connected with the job center? Like, how am I making sure that I am accounting that these might be barriers that individuals in my programs would be facing? And so we create all kinds of programs across the state that aren't necessarily even linked to the workforce system. We work directly with employers to create training programs. We have to talk with employers about how these are things that the people that they want to hire, that they are hungry to put to work, are encountering these barriers. We have to be willing to talk about them, and we have to help employers to see that these are realities. And then we have to be able to engage with individuals and be comfortable with speaking about what these needs are, what these things are, how do you access them? And we have to partner with great community-based organizations that allow us to be able to serve individuals where they are and with what they need. I'll push a little here and say, consider yourself privileged if you're able to remain unaware of what barriers to learning are, or where to access resources that help learners overcome barriers. And then turn it here into consider it a privilege to assist learners with accessing resources and overcoming barriers. It absolutely is a privilege to be able to help people access a resource that removes a barrier so they can engage in their training, so they can build up experience, so they can stay into the classroom learning that they, believed that someone could help them get into and support them. We don't leave them hanging. We make sure that we are there to support and bring along any type of wraparound supports that would be necessary to help them continue on their journey. It is only when those barriers are overcome that true learning can occur through experience. I cannot concentrate on learning on the job if I'm worried about my housing, if I'm worried about my childcare. I have to leave early because I don't have childcare. If I have to stay home because I don't have the benefits I need, the paid time off, if I don't feel psychologically safe to even engage in the conversation with my employer or my training provider to be able to seek out these helps, then you might lose me. And you might lose me forever to where I wouldn't even want to engage in the workforce or a learning experience again. So our responsiveness and our ability to meet the individual learner's need is vitally important. Um, Once those barriers are overcome, the experience can happen to where someone can uh, be taught on the job. Somebody can be taught in a classroom to where they can role model after what they are seeing. They can understand that they are accomplishing things, and that they are meeting standards that elevate them into someone who will be recognized by this world as someone who is competent in a certain subject matter area, as someone who is able to do the work that's expected of them. It is through experience that the learner can experience transformation. As the learner transforms, they never stop encountering the realities of the world. So how are we being responsive, and how are we continuing the conversations that ensure that a learner is able to be successful, that a learner is actually fully realized and becomes transformed? A transformed learner may receive, as a result of that transformation, a credential, a degree, a wage increase. Work-based learning will, of course, always have wage increases as a part of a learner's journey. They might even get like a new title at their work as they increase their experience. Or they might be in a degreed program, and so maybe they receive an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree. They chose to adventure into the unknown world. And once they come back after they have received their credential, their degree, their wage increase, they encounter the world that was once known to them in a new way. And so they've went into an adventure into the unknown. They're coming back into the known. They are a master of both worlds. They are able to actually uh, be aware of all those opportunities. They're stronger for whatever they've had to suffer, whatever barriers they've encountered. They've felt supported. They've felt like they can make it through that journey, because we offer those types of services. And I know that everyone on here wants to be able to say, yes, I supported learners in their journey. So as they return transformed and encountering that world in a new way, we do have to be mindful of some things. As they return into the known world, they might just be entering into sustainable employment, or they might be advancing in their employment. But they now have special knowledge, and that is going to benefit their employer, their colleagues, and their community. And so the special knowledge that they have is what that journey looked like for them and how to overcome barriers. They themselves actually are able to know the barriers that future learners may encounter. They're better prepared for the world that they will be encountering themselves. They know how to access learning. They become the advocates. They become the mentors for future generations. And so the learner's journey is one of it's a lifelong endeavor. You might enter into this multiple times over your life. But the learner's journey is always to become the advocate, the mentor that makes it easier for the person that comes up behind them. That's the work-based learning model part of this. There's always a responsibility to take up the mantle and make sure that the next learner knows what you know and can benefit from the knowledge that you have. Really partial to work-based learning because it definitely encourages a culture of sharing and ensuring that that the learning that you've participated in doesn't just benefit you, that it actually allows you to contribute to the world. It allows you to be ensuring that the workforce and your colleagues that are alongside you are able to benefit from your knowledge, and then you're able to ensure that how things are done meet what your employer wants, and then also meets the needs of being the type of contribution to the world that we're looking for. We're looking for people who would encourage learning, who would encourage growth, who would be able to engage in the workforce continuously, who would know that learning is accessible to them at all times. We're building on ramps, off ramps. We are ensuring that learners can always be able to engage in the process if it's appropriate. Let's say an employer is like, hey, that's awesome that you have all these skills. I see potential in you. I want you to take these classes. Well, if I've had a positive learner's journey, I'm going to be excited about that opportunity. And if I'm a college or a university, I've got repeat business like in the pipeline from that. If somebody had a negative experience with their learner journey, if they only remember the struggles and they don't remember the support, then they might not want to engage in that. And then that's another way that we lose a potential student, a potential worker, and really that family and generations to come are impacted by that learner experience. So now I'm going to transition into talking more about work-based learning. I hope that you understood and enjoyed the learner's journey as I presented it. I'm happy to have individual conversations with each of you about any one of those components and how we can do better and collaborate together and ensure that individuals in Missouri can access everything that they need to be successful. But let's move into work-based learning. It would definitely be remiss for me to just focus on the learner's journey and then not talk about those things that make work-based learning unique. Work-based learning increases access to relevant training and sustainable employment. Because they're employed day one in these types of endeavors, they actually have the opportunity to be spurred on by the fact that they've got a paycheck and they're learning new things as they move through their employment. Mentors are the consistent components of any type of work-based learning that I would talk about. Mentors ensure that work-based learners feel welcomed and valued as individuals. Any type of work-based learning program is only going to be as strong as the mentors that believe in the learners and direct them on their journey. In Missouri, we do have a work-based learning continuum. So work-based learning is a nonlinear path. You're going to have some entrances into work-based learning that will look different from my experience to your experience to your neighbor's experience. But it does consist of actual some common elements that will make it easier to describe what work-based learning is and how each of us engages in this. Maybe you'll think of ways that you've engaged in this in the past or things that you do on your current role that help someone along the work-based learning continuum. Career awareness and exploration would be the preparation for work-based learning. And then the work-based learning activities that I'll talk about today include career preparation and career training. We're gonna break these down into a little bit more what do you mean by career awareness and exploration? Let's make it a little bit easier. Career awareness and exploration is that preparation for work-based learning. It's the instruction, the programs that actually are more of an exposure of opportunities and possibilities. There may be some education and some engaging in employment skills, but it is the connection, the spark that helps someone to make the connection between education that they experience and work. And so some of these things include industry tours, career fairs, externships, job shadowing. I'm a big fan of externships. I think that it gives us the option to be able to really know what's going on out there in the world. Us as educators and those who influence learners need to know what journeys we're sending these learners on. Work-based learning is career preparation activities. And so that's going to be more specific to occupational skills, the knowledge that it takes to actually engage in entry-level learning, being in the employment opportunity that helps us access post-secondary training. It's very contextual based off of the industry, and that this is the option to be able to help people be more aware in a way that they actually don't just have exposure to the options, but they actually get some experience within the options. So these are like our apprenticeships, internships, clinicals, practicum, school-based enterprises. And then career training is even more intensive. So that really is actually you are on the job, you're working, you have a skilled mentor over you. These are apprenticeships. These are our normal paid employment type of experiences. These also include cooperative learning, work experience, work study, and any type of on-the-job learning program. Career training is actually the bulk of what we focus on whenever we talk about work-based learning programs with apprenticeship and work-based learning. But it is contingent upon the success of all the other components of the work-based learning continuum. Um, I am going to be much more successful in ensuring that individuals can access the training that they need and that they are able to successfully complete coursework if the preparation has been there. So we have to all work together to ensure that awareness and exploration happens, career preparation is a priority, and that career training is accessible. Career awareness and exploration typically is short term. Maybe it would be something that would be half a day or a full day of experience. Um, a citizen and a learner gets exposure to new occupations, work environments. They get to build up maybe like some experiential learning with types of skills. They get to know what those skills may be required to be successful in an industry. It actually can be industry agnostic. So it might not be as specific to an industry. It could be more than one industry served by these awareness and exploration activities. And a lot of times these types of experiences are coordinated by training providers, economic development, workforce development, chambers of commerce. The list goes on, great community-based organizations. The career awareness and exploration is something that requires our attention, requires us to, we should be prioritizing how are we looking at the programs that we offer and how are they being communicated to those who would be considering these pathways someday. So we do have to, think about how are we meeting the needs of the future by focusing on the workforce of the future and offering that exposure now. Career preparation as we move into the work-based learning continuum and the work-based learning side, you know, sometimes this career preparation activities might be unpaid. I prefer paid experiences, call me old fashioned or call me new fashioned, but I like to be paid if I'm going to be on the job. The length of the placement, a lot of times, even an internship is going to be predetermined. It's going to be something that is a set amount of time. And it's going to help individuals to be familiar with what that is expected of them. It is not as aggressive as being like maybe on a full on like you're hired on the job. You might have limitations to what you can do on the job based on labor laws or limits that are placed on students. The things that we definitely want to focus on with career preparation is the fact that it's helping them to be aware of how to be successful in a professional setting, whatever that industry is. And they should be becoming aware of the academic expectations of that pathway, and then also the physical expectations, And this is the time that they should be introduced to knowing about the wraparound supports that would be available to them should they engage and choose to take this type of training further. This type of experience with career preparation is coordinated by training providers, maybe CTEs, school districts, job centers, colleges, universities, individuals, even employers, agencies, community-based organizations. Career preparation is a necessity, and so you have a lot of players ensuring that these types of experience happen. So just again, as a reminder, this is the prep work. Okay, so this is the pre-apprenticeship, this is the internship, this is the opportunity to learn prior to being full-on employed and in that employment experience. Career training is very specific in regards to work-based learning. It's going to be the components that are paid work experience. Okay, so these are going to be like the specific things they do on the job are really what they do on the job, because it is a real job and they're receiving a paycheck. And so it's structured, there's supervision by a mentor that ensures that the work that they're learning is relevant and they're learning it the right way, the way the company wants them to learn it. Employers actually drive these types of programs. So yeah, I guess it goes without saying that employers drive paid employment, but apprenticeships, cooperative learning, work experience, all of these types of exposures, this is the real deal. The intention is to have people employed in these roles and be able to grow in these roles. And so it's long-term employment, it's planned, and the types of work-based learning opportunities that are created here actually should have the long-term in mind, and should actually be, combining that connection between what they have experienced up until this point in their preparation, whether that was classroom work, that was prior to being engaged in the work-based learning experience, or it is a classroom experience that they're having at the same time that they are engaging in a work-based learning experience. That is the continuum for work-based learning. So if you have any questions about that, I can always dive in deep, just focusing specifically on that continuum and maybe what your role is, and if any questions that you may have. I'm very eager to be able to partner in ways that we can eliminate barriers for our citizens. I want to give you a really great example of, I say it's really great because this is what I do, right? Apprenticeship Missouri, this is how we function and support our learners. Okay, so if you were to consider a learner's journey right here, this is what we do in an effort to support the learner. And so on this particular picture, you're going to see the learners referred to as career seekers, okay? So these are our citizens, our job seekers, our students, our incumbent workers. So those are workers who are already employed, but maybe need some skills to skill up to a middle skill or advanced skill job. What we do as Apprenticeship Missouri is that we work with employers, we work with partners to ensure that career seekers, learners, can access the opportunities that they need, okay? So we work with partners such as community-based organizations, higher education, secondary education, economic development, workforce services, USDOL, state agencies, labor management, chambers, industry associations, and more, to ensure that the things that are being developed actually align to what the citizen needs and what the workforce needs. We bring these partners together and we have conversations, and we develop programs that are accessible to citizens and that also help them to be able to access the community-based support that they need in order to remain successful. We also work to promote opportunities that are designed in partnership with employers to meet needs that they have. So let's say they're not able to fill their open positions with available talent. They're hiring people that don't 100% fit the job description. Every employer does that. This is an option to be able to help them control the learning of those individuals that they hire. Maybe they have a retiring workforce that's leaving and taking their knowledge with them. Over the past year, we received over 1 million more retirements than we anticipated from the baby boomer generation. We were ready for 2 million. We got 3 million. People made decisions based off of, a great reassessment of their lives. The workforce is in a intense need to fill these positions. So there is an increase in job openings. And many times employers are experiencing turnover and problems with retention. And so our ability to be responsive to that is important. So we talk to employers and help them to identify some of those pain points. And then we also work with our partners and our career seekers to help to develop that talent pipeline. So if we can help employers develop training that's relevant, that's work-based learning, we can also partner with entities that offer services that wrap around and support our career seekers, our citizens, job seekers, students, incumbent workers. We make sure that services that are offered are relevant, adaptable, and quickly accessible to the individuals that we serve, so that learners don't get left behind, that learners actually can be considered for roles that they don't 100% have the preparation for, perhaps. We are able to bridge a gap. And I believe that that's what we are talking about today. If we want to ensure a bridge to success is built, then we all have to work together. And we all should be able to look at our own organizations and determine how we operate and how we are best supporting our learners on their journey. Just to help break it down even more, the Department of Higher Education and Workforce Development is committed to making sure that success is accessible. So right now, Apprenticeship Missouri, as we are housed in the Office of Workforce Development, we are very much interested in building sustainable employment. So that might mean that maybe we need to have some meetings with people like you to ensure that these opportunities are accessible. We want to make sure that individuals can access quality employment opportunities. We want to make sure that businesses have access to skilled talent and those pipelines of talent. We want to make sure education is better aligned to the workforce need. And we want to provide that infrastructure to make sure that we are serving citizens where they are. So Apprenticeship Missouri is a part of the Office of Workforce Development. We are a component of 5 to Thrive. We are actually, we want you to know that apprenticeship actually operates at all the levels of 5 to Thrive. Apprenticeship can exist at all of these levels. Apprenticeships can be from 1 to 6 years in length, and some of them align with college credit. Some of them have prerequisites, just like other training programs you might be more familiar with, but all are access points to education. We partner very closely with the U.S. Department of Labor, and the standards that are built as a part of apprenticeship are meeting national standards, so they hold meaning beyond our borders here in Missouri. And we are also making sure that our options are accessible through our website, Missouri Apprentice Connect. And so apprenticeships that are actively recruiting are welcome to post those opportunities on our portal. It really is a matchmaking site for seekers and employers. If there's anything more appropriate, it is to create an accessible portal for the learner's journey, so we can be aware of the opportunities that we didn't know about before. So we are eager to work together with you. There are many things that we do whenever it comes to apprenticeship and work-based learning, but we don't do it alone. We work all across our partners here at the Department of Higher Education and Workforce Development. We work with MERIC, we work with Office of Postsecondary Policy. We work with special programs that help people to access training. And we are keenly interested in ensuring that post-secondary education is accessible to all. So I couldn't stop talking without ensuring that you're able to return with special knowledge. I provided these links to Jerron, like hoping that he would put them in the chat, because I want you to not just stop with okay, you had a nice little lunch and a little show about the learner's journey. I want you to continue on. I want you to take up the charge and look at how the journeys that we set up support the needs of the workforce today. Really great article from Forbes about wraparound supports. I'm very keenly interested in what is called the Sandsdemic. So please check out the information from MZ and the demographic drought. And feel free to connect and engage with Mo Apprentice Connect. We want you to know about the options in apprenticeship and what apprenticeship is by accessing that website. We have an apprenticeship playbook there. We're happy to be able to take any of your questions and make sure that, you know, apprenticeship doesn't have to be something that is a concept that you do not know. It is something that we can be aware of and help people connect to. And so that is my presentation today. I am happy to engage in anything in the remaining time. I thank you so much for being present. This is on my heart, that we create opportunities that is accessible to every Missourian. So thank you for your time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gina. I did put those links are in the chat, but thank you for following up with that, with the screenshot of that. Really appreciate that, Gina. And again, you and your team's progress, what you guys do is noticed very well. We've had some great comments regarding the work that you all are doing. So really appreciate everything that you're doing. I just want to get, before we close out, I just want to get to one of the questions really quick. If there are more questions, I'll send those to Gina and she can respond and we'll get those responses out to you. So first of all, the first question, this looks like a great program. I wonder how it might benefit programs like Thrive that are working on giving students similar opportunities. Fortunately, I need, do you have any answer to that, Gina?
We will meet with anyone that wants to discuss work-based learning, the Continuum, Apprenticeship Missouri. That is a part of our job, is really to convene and offer that infrastructure of support to ensure that Missourians can access what's most appropriate. So feel free to contact me. Really eager to be able to, facilitate anything or even offer our presence at convenings that you may have. We have a team that's just as passionate as me to be able to share. And one of our values is to be as available as possible to our citizens. And everybody on here is someone that matters to Missouri and what we can do.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much, Gina. This is a great presentation, great information. Really appreciate your time today. Thank you all so much for joining us. Again, we'll post this presentation up probably sometime this week, and we'll be back next month with another discussion. Thank you all so much. Thank you for your time, Gina. Everyone, thank you so much. Have a good day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care.